Hey there, my name is Chelsea Ritenour and I am the host of Music Talks. Before we get started, I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself and my journey as a singer. It all started when I was about 5 years old, and I was at Southside Elementary and they were doing a talent show, and I said, Mom, came home from school and I was like, Mom, I have to sing in the talent show. She was shocked. And I said, I already know what I want to sing. And I sang Part of Your World from The Little Mermaid, which was my favorite movie. I had a costume, props, the works. And that was my first time ever performing. And it kind of went from there. I did some musicals at Geyer whenever I was younger. And I started taking voice lessons here in town from Kelly Bell whenever I was about 10 years old. After that, I took a little break. I was trying to figure out, did I want to sing? Did I want to do musical theater? I was also a dancer. And my father happened to be driving around Greensburg and he saw this sign that said musical theater classes over in Greensburg, and he pulled out a piece of paper and a pen and he wrote it down. He came home and he told me and my mother about it. At this time I was about 11 years old, maybe 12, and I enrolled that summer for musical theater camp at Stage Right. I started doing musical theater there, which was very different for me. Like I said, I was a dancer and I could sing, but the whole acting aspect was a brand new world and I was really shy about it. Believe it or not, I'm actually a little bit shy until you get to know me. So I was doing musical theater for a few years and I noticed that at the time my voice didn't really fit with that genre. Everybody else had these big, huge, belty voices and mine was just pretty and I could sing really high. So a friend of mine was taking voice lessons and she said, hey, I think you should take lessons from my teacher. So I met this woman. She was right up the street from Stage Right. I had a voice lesson with her and she taught me a song, her and her husband. They taught me a song while I was there. The song was called Caro Mio Ben. And if you take voice lessons, I'm sure you're all familiar with it. It is from the staple book, The Italian 24. And after I sang it, she looked at me and she said, you know, you're meant to be an opera singer and I'm going to teach you how to do that. And I was about 12 years old at the time, and 12-year-old me said, okay. So from the time that I was 12 to about 18 years old, I studied with Caterina Musetti in Greensburg. She was an opera singer herself, and she gave me a solid vocal foundation. I mean, the technique and the vocal ability that I had by the time that I was 15, it was pretty amazing. I was singing the doll song, Queen of the Night. If you're an opera buff, you definitely know what those arias are. And so I still did musical theater, but my passion was more towards opera. And I decided when I was a senior in high school that after I finished Peter Pan, I was Peter Pan in their production. That was back in 2009. It was my junior year of high school. And I was like, you know what? That's going to be my last musical. And it was for a while. And I solely focused on opera. And I was at CMU for the next 4 years for vocal performance. I was studying opera. I was double major in psychology. It was a lot. My junior year, I got 2 lead roles, and they gave me the lead role for my first opera that I was ever in. I was absolutely terrified. I had no idea what I was doing, but there I was on stage singing Lori from the Tenderland. Thank God it was in English, because that would have been too much if it was in a different language, and it kind of went from there. I had the amazing experience of singing and getting hired with an opera company in Germany right out of undergrad. And after I graduated from CMU, I left a month early. They still let me graduate. And I went and I worked in Germany that entire summer. And I sang in an opera house. I had 2 lead roles with them, and I sang in multiple concert series. Everything was in German. The director only spoke German, so I speak a little bit of German. It was amazing. And then I came back to the States. I was home for about 2 weeks, and I moved to New York City to start my master's degree at Mannes, which is a music conservatory in Manhattan. I spent the next 2.5 years in New York City, once again studying opera. And my last year, I decided to go out and do all of the auditions. And once again, to my shock and my surprise, I landed a huge contract with the Opera Theater St. Louis. So, once again, I left school a month early. I started my contract with the Opera Theater of St. Louis. Once I finished that, I went down to Miami. I sang with the Miami Music Festival. And then a few months later, the Opera Theater of St. Louis called me back. And I went and I was there in the fall. And I did their touring school opera. I did that for the next 2 years. And then things started to shift for me. I was back in the area, and a lot of people were asking me to teach voice lessons, to do master classes. I was quite terrified at first. I had never taught, and I didn't really think that that was something that I was going to do. And so I said, you know what? I'm just gonna go for it. We're gonna give this a try. And I taught my first master class at the canteen here in town, roughly 2.5 years ago. I had a teen segment with about 10 kids and a preteen group as well. And I loved it, and it went really well. And so after that finished, I was deciding, okay, am I gonna move back to New York City, keep auditioning and trying to live that life? Or do I wanna stay here and build up a private studio and see where life takes me? And I decided to stay here. So now I'm a voice teacher. I have a studio of about 23 students, and I still sing opera. But since I've been home, the genre has kind of switched. I got hired with a traveling pop band. The name is Studio E Band, and I get to sing with Gary Rakin, he was the lead singer of the Vogues. And all of a sudden I got thrown into this world of pop music and using microphones. I had no idea how to use a microphone. That was a whole new world for me. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was so much more relaxing than the opera side of things. And then I was with a group of friends, and we, out of nowhere, decided to start a rock band. If I'm being honest, I kind of always wanted to be a rock singer. I mean, when I was a little girl, Evanescence and Amy Lee was like the thing, and I just wanted to be Amy Lee. I really did. And now I kind of am, which is very cool. So I'm with Studio E. I get hired out to sing private classical gigs all around the Pittsburgh area, out of state sometimes. And I have my own rock band. So, in a nutshell, that is my life. I have had formal training for over 6 years in classical music, and now I'm a multi-genre singer, kind of doing it all. So, music talks. Let's talk about that. So I got a call from Rick Fike. Hello. And he was like, hey, I have an idea for this cool show, and I'd love for you to host it. You know, we wanna focus on the local music scene and the bands around here, and I think you'd be a perfect fit. And immediately I was like, absolutely yes, but me? What? I was pretty shocked, but very, very excited. So what we're doing is we are pulling from all of the amazing talent that we have around here. There are so many bands, so many solo acts, amazing musicians, all genres. I mean, we're all over the map, and it's amazing because we're just such a small little town here, but the music that we have is just basically pick what you want and we've got it. So we figured this needs to be showcased. These bands, they need an opportunity to be put out there. So every week, Wednesday evenings, we are going to be interviewing various bands, solo artists, you name it, pianists, everybody, in different genres. We've got country bands, we've got rock bands, we have like a funk band, we have classical pianists, jazz pianists. I have a few choirs that are interested. I mean, we're all over the map. And we're going to interview them, get their stories, see how it all started. And then we're going to open it up to the public. It takes place 7 p.m. every Wednesday starting February 13th at the Cobblestone Hotel here in town. You can come down, sip on some adult beverages if you would like, and listen to this amazing talent that we have right here in town. You'll be hearing roughly 30 to 45 minutes worth of music, and you can get up, talk to the band members, you can hire them for events if you have something coming up. It's really whatever you want, but the point is to give these amazing musicians the exposure that they deserve.